What's going on, Patron Ejects? It's Greg Alba here.
And it's John here.
So we're going to cover the movie news of the week from May 21st through the 28th. Yeah, that's a week's worth of news right there. Let's get one thing out of the way. Pirates of the Caribbean, to everyone's surprise, opened up at #1 at the box office. I don't have the numbers, and I haven't compared it. There you go. First story of the day right there. No need to really talk about that. No, we'll go into some actual interesting shit.
You mean Baywatch didn't take it?
Baywatch did not take it and apparently disappointingly opened, according to a Box Office Mojo report I read.
The Rock couldn't save that one.
I feel like we could have actually had a story if we wrote down some notes on this one. Yeah.
Well, the story there is just that the Rock is not bulletproof when it comes to the box office.
If it was Baywatch 2 and then they put the Rock in it, then it would have done incredibly well. So we're going to cover some news. I want to give a quick mention. We did put down for our Patreon a Q&A. So write down any questions you guys have. A lot of questions came in. John and I will film that this week. We're hoping to have it up by Tuesday or Wednesday for you guys over on Patreon. Exclusive Q&A segment just for you folks who pledge to the Patreon community.
You fine folks, you. We love you, we do.
Anyway, let's hop into this. Let's start off with the top news story of the week.
By far my favorite.
Tom Holland is playing young Nathan Drake in Sony's Uncharted movie.
Oh.
This movie is being directed by Sean Levy, who did films like Real Steel, Night at the Museum. Yeah.
So this is going to be alright.
And he produced Stranger Things, so everyone has a lot of faith because he's the producer and had directed a couple episodes of Stranger Things.
That's always a weird like, oh yeah, they were involved in this thing. I'm like, yeah, they're good collaborators, but not just in control of
orchestrating the entire picture is one thing, though. This story to me is something that I'm not offended by it by any stretch, because I know there were some fans of the game who were like, this isn't the movie I wanted, because everyone's been dream casting in their own heads or making videos about who they think could play Nathan Drake.
David Boreanaz.
Tom Hardy, Hugh Jackman, Christian Bale, the huge. I heard Brad Pitt even at one point.
Ian Somerhalder.
Ian McShane.
Ian McShane.
But Tom Holland as young Nathan Drake, okay, I thought about it a little bit more since this news was first announced. Young Nathan Drake, okay, I can be on board with that, but did anyone really want that? Did anyone want young Nathan Drake to be the focus of the Uncharted movie? Why can't they just do a direct video game adaptation of a damn video game? So let's do an Assassin's Creed movie, but we'll make it not based off any one of the many video games out there. Let's do an Uncharted movie. Let's have it be all about young teenage Nathan Drake the entire time instead. That's not what we wanted.
The character that, just judging by the gameplay, would not be as interesting to be.
No, of course not.
Yeah, I don't know. You said, you kind of touched on this, and a few people I've heard in commentary have touched on this, and it does feel to me sort of like, yeah, Tom Holland's hot right now. Let's put him in another property that people are excited to see.
Especially because it's Sony's Spider-Man Homecoming that's coming out. We gotta ride the Tom Holland train for a while, people. And we gotta make Tom Holland an action star now. Yeah.
That's the thing, too, is like, I feel like video game movie is still a problematic genre. Like, no video game movie has ever just nailed it. Like, even the ones people think are good have asterisks, like Silent Hill and Mortal Kombat. Like, so, like, Michael Fassbender and Assassin's Creed proved that you can't just bank these on people that we love, because, you could still get a bland, bad movie. So yeah, I don't know, there's nothing that convinces me that this news is gonna make this movie great. I'm just thinking, well,
if anything, this makes me less interested in it.
Yeah, now the trailer's gonna have to win me that much more,
Yeah.
Because like from what I know, from having played the demo, like I don't know, I was a little taken aback when I first heard this. I knew enough about the series to be like, huh.
I feel like Sean Levy makes passable entertainment.
Yeah, it's like Real Steel is like, it's cute. Like it's a movie that's like good for what it is, but it's only as much as it is, and it doesn't get any better than what it is.
And Night at the Museum, same thing.
Yeah, it's like, it's fun.
Yeah, so I feel like what we need with video game movies, I mean, maybe the bar is set so low at the point now where we just need something that'll get like a 60% on Rotten Tomatoes one day.
I mean,
maybe that's all we need right now for a step in the right direction. Maybe
I
what
feel
we
like
need
we're
is
there.
we're at the point where we need a step in the right direction.
Exactly.
That's what we need everyone to be saying. Maybe not the masterpiece we're all hoping for, but
before we
step.
take a 10-year break before trying a new one again.
Before they get, you know, the dark night of video game movies, we need that. You know?
Yeah. It's weird because like you look at Resident Evil and somehow that series managed to move.
They're rebooting that shit too,
and they're rebooting it with some kind of crazy ambitious like we're gonna make 6 of these.
Yeah.
And I'm like, are you? Because like I don't know how well those movies do, but I always feel like they don't get received very well, and they just ended the series. Like I can't imagine they did tremendous business.
I mean, to be a little bit more optimistic, Tom Holland is a fantastic actor. He really is a fantastic actor. And I could see him bringing sort of that, I don't know, young Indiana Jones type of personality to it, or like the more of the sense of wonder. Because, you know, when Nathan Drake, a big aspect of him is he's that cool guy who's always discovering these new things and on new adventures. But when he's a teenager, I imagine there's a much bigger sense of wonder about all these like explorations that he's going to be embarking on in this whole new world this young white kid is involved in, you know? And I feel like Tom Holland could bring whatever aspect they're looking for there. But right now it seems more like a marketing thing to me than it is honoring the video game for what it is. And I can't really comment on that too much because I played like a little bit of each one of the games. I haven't played one game throughout. But what I can tell you is each time I've either watched someone play when I'm in the room or played myself, Nathan Drake's the coolest part of it. And the one thing we all wanted was just, let's bring Nathan Drake to the big screen. It's like if you brought Solid Snake from Metal Gear Solid in and they're like, we're going to do a teenage version of Solid Snake. Like, why would we want that?
Why would we want to see that? Solid Snake has been cool as an adult for many games.
Yeah.
Like, and the thing is, like, I feel like an Uncharted movie, you know, whether you started Drake's Fortune or not, you know, like, that's a good opportunity to fill that Indiana Jones type void. You know, come in with a new, you know, like, they tried to have National Treasure. National Treasure's gone away. You know, we don't have... They're talking Indiana Jones 5, but who knows when that's going to come together. Like, this could be a good opportunity to basically fill that void with something vaguely different, and it just by going younger, again, I don't know how much of this movie is going to be spent on that. If they're getting Tom Holland, I got to imagine a good amount.
Yeah, I mean, it's just not what I currently want. If anything, I would have had them do kind of a semi thing of what they did with it. I respected with what I heard what they were doing with Assassin's Creed, which is basing it in the same universe and the same rules of whatever Assassin's Creed entails, but making a new character out of it. What I would have liked is, okay, maybe don't base it off of one of the specific games, but base it off of Nathan Drake, adult Nathan Drake, and put him on a different adventure that we didn't see in one of the video games that you could just play. Instead of trying to compact, you know, hours worth of gameplay into a 2-hour exciting film.
Well, I've wondered
you could have done that instead. Because, I mean, I just don't think anyone cared for young Nathan Drake, and as hot as Tom Holland is right now, it's not enough for me to be excited about this casting.
Yeah, no, totally. And I don't know, when it comes to video game movies too, it's that kind of thing where like I don't know where to put my faith anymore because we've never really tried to do one where you just take the story of a game and transcribe it to a movie. And I can see why that would be kind of perceived as maybe a waste of time because that story exists in much more detail as a game.
Yeah.
But I don't mind the sort of like same universe, different story idea, but this is all, especially with this announcement, now that it seems like they're diverting from what everybody knows to be Uncharted. My anticipation of this movie now rides on that train. Rides really, even more.
Really does.
Because the thing is, like, if they'd cast somebody where I'm like, oh yeah, I can totally see Nathan Drake, that would make me excited off the bat, you know?
Yeah.
And now I'm just like, all right, now you gotta show me. Moving on. Guess what, Greg? Top Gun 2 is confirmed to be filming this year, or at least within the year. On the Today Show, and they're eyeing director Joseph Kosinski of the hit films Tron Legacy and Oblivion to direct it.
I don't know if Oblivion's a big hit.
Hit films, Greg. Everyone loved Oblivion. They didn't think it was contrived. It didn't get very mixed reviews, and I wasn't one of the few people who really enjoyed it.
I saw Oblivion twice in the theaters. I really liked Oblivion. I thought it was really good. Yeah.
That's one movie where I'm like, I get your complaints. I just still really like the experience in this movie.
I feel like a lot of people misunderstood it. It wasn't a rip-off film like a lot of people were putting it. I was like, this is an homage piece. Yeah. This is totally like inspired by these other sci-fi film pieces. It totally feels that way the entire time, and I didn't take it as... It's like watching Kill Bill and going, this film's just a rip-off of Japanese films, you know?
Yeah, it's like, I watched Oblivion and I was like, yeah, I can see a lot of your influences, but at the same time, I think you pulled them all together into something that I'm still compelled by, and I still like the mystery and the characters and the world. Like, that's an example of pretty cool world building, in my opinion.
And I've seen a couple of videos, especially on Collider, where they were talking about Joseph Kosinski and like why they're not excited of him doing this film. And I don't see the problem with Joseph Kosinski. I just don't see the issue with him doing it. Tron Legacy is not a great film by any means. As a matter of fact, I get pretty bored when I watch that movie. I even saw it in IMAX where it had IMAX camera scenes, and I was still it's kind of a snooze fest.
That's a bummer, because I wanted to see that.
But Oblivion I really like.
Yeah.
And Top Gun is not... I'm sorry if this offends anyone out of like the 10 people that are going to watch this video.
Yeah.
But... Top Gun's not a masterpiece.
It is it's beloved for it being good at what it is, but it's not like the most tremendous feat of
it's
film.
Not.
Like,
see what people talk about the volleyball scene.
like there's some stuff that's dated about that.
It's very dated. It's a super 80s
to say
movie.
the least. There is a bar in San Diego who has a neon sign in their window touting proudly that they are, quote, the sleazy bar from Top Gun.
Yeah, it's a cheesy-ass film, man. It's like a Josh McCougar film.
But and it's perfect for what it does, like what it is. Like, it's the perfect pitch for what it is. Like, and that's why it's so beloved, is because it works. But
I guess my concern, if I had a Joseph Kosinski concern, is it going to be fun, or is he going to take this very serious? Because I'm like, come on, man, it's Top Gun 2. Have some fun with it. That's all I'm thinking is like, have some fun with it.
Oh yeah.
Get your Daft Punk to do the music for it. Get your like sci-fi.
I don't need
music.
Gritty anti-hero for this.
Yeah.
You know, I need. You know, Maverick was the boisterous, the sort of like, you can't tell me what to do. You know, kind of like cocky guy.
And Tom Cruise is producing this, and Tom Cruise. He's been out there saying that if he does it, he wants to do it the way they did Part 1, which is with stuntmen and real pilots, and he wants to do the flying and everything again. And I feel like Joseph Kosinski would respect that enough to not go, let's just CGI all these airplanes, you know? It's like...
Yeah, I feel like he can work with Tom Cruise. See, I'm interested about Joseph Kosinski because it's like almost rare that you see a director go from like crazy science fiction, lots of CG, into like grounded, this is real, this is Air Force. Like, you know, so that's both intriguing and also kind of head scratching to me, because I'm like, what is he going to be like in that environment? And also, you have Tron Legacy, which is like a giant property movie, and then you have Oblivion, which is a big sci-fi movie. So I don't know much about Joseph Kosinski's voice, I guess. Like, what is he gonna bring to a more real world scenario? Because like, even with Oblivion has more of that, like, you know, serious tone, like mystery. But I get what kind of movie that is, you know. So,
and I feel like for Tom Cruise to choose him for this, I rarely feel like Tom Cruise makes a misstep when he's choosing the directors, other than Edward Zwick for Jack Reacher 2.
Well, and it's like he works with Christopher McQuarrie all the time, and it seems like he has a working relationship with Joe Kosinski.
Yeah, he did Jack Reacher with Christopher McQuarrie, which to me was an okay film, had its moments of greatness, but overall was just an okay movie. But then he saw, like, you should do the next Mission Impossible, and that became the best Mission Impossible movie, you know? Like, I think that, I feel like Tom Cruise would know what he's doing with specifically seeking out Joseph Kosinski for this project.
Tom Cruise has this weird quintessence right now where, like, in an odd way, I trust his judgment about these kinds of things. I'm like, yeah, if you think he's the right guy for Top Gun 2, I'll just wait and see. Like, I believe in you. And even lately, that some of that faith has wavered for me, because I'm like, interesting, The Mummy, and also what happened with Jack Reacher 2?
Yeah.
But I don't know. He's not shaken me enough that I'm not like, yeah, this could work.
Well, I don't feel like he controlled the decision on The Mummy for who directs that, though.
Yeah, I feel like that's one of the few fish bowls he can be in where he does not have all of the say.
Because the universe is bigger than himself.
Yeah, I feel like he has a lot of say probably in The Mummy, but not all of it.
And Top Gun 2, the only, like, if you can get... even if Tony Scott was still around, unfortunately he's not, but if he was still around and he was directing it, but Tom Cruise wasn't in it, I don't think people would care. What people give a shit most about is Tom Cruise being in this film. And as long as Tom Cruise is there, he's going to have most of the control over what happens with Top Gun 2. A movie he did not have control over. And now he'll have control over Top Gun 2, you know?
And it makes sense, because that's the mistake a lot of these reboots make, is like they have Tom Cruise and they're going back to make a sequel, and that's probably the only way more Top Gun would ever work.
Yeah.
You know? Because we love Top Gun because of Tom Cruise, Val Kilmer.
And we should get fat-ass Val Kilmer in this!
Yay!
Eating a burger, drinking an In-N-Out shake in his jet plane.
Hot off the heels of Spoils of Babylon. What was the last thing I saw him in?
It
could work.
It could work.
Josh Boone, Fault in Our Stars, writer-director, says X-Men New Mutants will be a full-fledged horror movie set within the X-Men universe.
The plot for it is, held in a secret facility against their will, 5 new mutants have to battle the dangers of their powers as well as the sins of their past. They aren't out to save the world, they're just trying to save themselves.
And they're all trapped by Kevin from Split. It's a big crossover. Unbreakable's coming to the X-Men universe. It's going to be great.
It's funny, after we just talked about Justice League Dark, and now hearing about Josh Boone, horror movie director Josh Boone.
Fault in Our Stars. The horrors of having cancer. And now the horrors of developing powers while also constricted.
Well, the X-Men universe, out of all these universes and film franchises, they seem to be the most bold right now. With having, because Deadpool is technically part of the X-Men universe. I feel like some people get like bitchy about it when you say that. It's like, why? It is. They have, like, X-Men in the movie.
They directly go and fuck with the X-Men universe and acknowledge it, and
And then they had Logan. And
if anything, X-Men exists within the Deadpool universe. Just the way that movie's mechanics work.
So to hear that they're doing a full-fledged horror film, that sounds awesome.
That sounds great.
That sounds incredible. And when you hear horror movie, X-Men universe, these like teenagers who are discovering these like powers. I hear they have like some concerns like a wolf man. I should have done a little more research on this before talking about it, because it was more of the topic of genre of full-fledged horror that intrigued me. That doing full-fledged horror in an X-Men universe like movie just makes sense.
Yeah.
I could see you doing that. And to call it New Mutants, and to not be trying to, like, oh, let's just revamp a new X-Men team or something.
Yeah.
I'm not familiar with the New Mutants. As an average moviegoer, not an avid comic book reader, to hear that they'd be doing a full-fledged horror film, that sounds bold as fuck.
Yeah, that sounds great.
That's the one thing none of these comic book movies have done, is a full-fledged horror movie.
That's what all these movies do need. Like, some of the best writing advice I ever got, in a specific panel was like, hey, you want to write, it was like about horrors. Like, you want to write good horror? Yeah. Well, consume other things, draw inspiration from other genres. And so, you want to make a good superhero movie now? We know what a superhero movie looks like. Bring in an even bigger way, more genres, because that'll make it. And the X-Men universe, superpowers in general, have so much horror potential, especially just from this blurb here. Like, there's so much potential for cruelty, just body horror, just like when your body changes.
That's what I heard they're trying to include, is body horror.
Oh, yeah.
Which makes sense, because it's the mutants.
Yeah. It's puberty is scary.
So, like, one of my favorite touches of that horrible Fantastic Four movie that was directed by... Who's the guy who directed that?
Josh Trank.
Josh Trank. One of my favorite moments of that film was when it got, like, scary.
Yeah.
When they all start discovering their powers, and then Mr. Fantastic, Miles Teller, wakes up, and he's, like, freaking...
And it's unsettling.
Yeah, it was unsettling, it was creepy, it was scary, and I thought it was very effective.
Yeah.
Now I'm like, I wish this was the whole Fantastic Four movie.
I wish they had to learn how scary this might not be.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Instead of just skipping.
And I think having this element here, a horror, that I feel like that automatically raises the stakes, And I wonder if the idea of having kind of like a creepier show like Legion in the X-Men universe on FX was somewhat of an inspiration, since that panned out so well, for them to go in a direction of being like, let's try our horror film now. I mean, you got your Deadpool, which is this insane comedy in the X-Men universe, this meta comedy. You got Logan, which is this like noir western,
stripped back western.
Yeah, and then you have now this one is a horror film, and to me, it's like this is making me gravitate more to the X-Men universe, because all the other universes of the comic book movies, it's such an element that could be applied. And I'm hoping, like Deadpool, like Logan, that they go, let's make this R-rated.
Well, and X-Men, at least to me, is arguably the one outside the MCU that has the most distinct flavor the most consistently. Because even, you know, like, when Sony was still making, like you know, Amazing Spider-Man 2 didn't necessarily, or, take it back. Amazing Spider-Man didn't necessarily achieve those things for me. And, you know, there are the DCEU is not achieving those things for me. And even though that there have been duds among the X-Men films, I feel like, they do the most consistently interesting things, and they have a timbre that hasn't changed and that feels distinct.
Yeah.
You know, and they only really lost that timbre for me in Origins and Apocalypse, you know.
Yeah.
For real. You know, even Part 3 has some of that, so.
Yeah, I think this is a great idea. It's just one thing that you hear, X-Men, horror.
Yeah.
Why not? I mean, these kids are always, anytime, it has elements of each one of the films where they're scared. The idea plays on, they are scared of, the people are scared of mutants, and the mutants are scared of being mutants, and they're being hunted. And then here it sounds like they're being experimented on.
Yeah.
And that just sounds scary. And like, there's sequences out of each one of the X-Men movies that you could have turned into horror. Out of almost every one of the X-Men
Wolverine's whole origin is a horror story.
Yeah. Or just so many scenes. Apocalypse would have been scarier if they treated it more like a horror movie instead of a big blockbuster action film.
Honestly, I feel like that would make villains more memorable, because that forces you to make them scary, and that forces you to have tension.
Yeah, because even like Jessica Jones, which is, I know it's an MCU show, that Kilgrave had so many horror elements in it.
Yeah.
And
they make him scary.
Yeah,
you know?
And it's like, so I'm just excited to see what they have in store, because I remember when the MCU hired Scott Derrickson to do Doctor Strange, I thought, oh, is this going to be their first, like, scary film?
Yeah, right.
And far from wasn't that at all.
He didn't get to go, like, hog wild.
Yeah. But if they stick true to their word, it has and having body horror in there, some scary ass villains, and if you can make it violent and R-rated, then man, this is because Logan and Deadpool have been changing the way for comic book movies to be, I feel.
Yeah.
You know, the MCU really established a very specific route. But Logan and Deadpool have established a very different way to make movies. Make movies within the same universe, but, you know, it's the one thing, like, the MCU has in common with most of their films. Some of them are like, the Captain America films are a little bit more on the serious side, I feel.
The only time I feel like Marvel has truly made a film, I feel like Marvel has perfected the art of making superhero movies, and the only one I felt was a film was Civil War.
Yeah.
And I feel like the X-Men universe
Winter Soldier, too.
Yeah,
but that one's very serious.
It started to diverge the line for sure.
Yeah,
I think Civil War is the one that nails it the most completely.
Yeah.
But I think X-Men does do that more. Is like there are times, it seems like, especially now in this more new phase, it seems like they are interested in making films and not just movies. Or when I say films, I'm also including stuff that's, you know, out there like Legion, because that's really out there. You know?
Well, I think because...
And cinematic, I guess.
While the X-Men universe is huge, because you got so many characters with its superpower abilities, you know, like, they don't have to worry so much about, well, we got to connect this whole other different world with this world, you know, we got to connect this character to this character so much, because the MCU has a very specific thing where all the films have to constantly... That's why I think there's a humor in all the films, because that's like its main connective tone tissue. If that's the best way I could put it.
Well, and humor allows you to smooth over the cracks that come up with growing over time.
So that way when they all come together and it's funny, it's not weird. You know?
Some of this might be awkward because you've changed.
Yeah. So yeah, this is a good idea. I really like it.
Yeah,
like it a lot.
I do too. And the X-Men, the X-Men universe has always lucked out because, from the very beginning, you just accept that there are mutants everywhere.
Yeah.
So, like, it's not like you have to bend over backwards to cross things over and make things work. And what about this, All
right, guys. Well, thanks for tuning in. You can catch our full movie news of the week segment. We have a few more stories that we cover there on Patreon. So go check it out over there and become a member. Sean's dad, John Humphrey, on Instagram and Twitter. Social media manager at blumhouse.com. And click that notification bell to be informed when more videos of ours is out. And we're doing a Q&A over at our Patreon. Patreon exclusive Q&A. So go join there to find out and get a question answered.
Good night.